Hi, everyone. This is the Life After Hockey interview series with One Sports and Entertainment's Chris Moynes. Chris, thanks for joining me today. You have quite literally written the book on transitioning into retirement professional athletes. It's called After the Game. What was the inspiration for the book? What experiences do you draw from? How did you find the process to put all of these into words, put them on paper?
Thanks for having me, Mike. Really, it's a great pleasure to be here with you. And I remember our last getting together, playing some tennis down in Hilton Head Island with Dave Andrews and winning the American League championship. So I'm really pleased to be here with you today.
That was a prestigious title and one of the highlights of my hockey career outside of the rink, without question.
I couldn't move
Dave will
that.
be happy to hear it.
Exactly. Just we can't tell Dave that. That's all. So after the game, the whole idea from after the game really came from a buddy of mine. His name is Steve Montador, and he's unfortunately not with us anymore. But he was at my house one day, and this is on a Saturday afternoon after he had come and seen my little guy play hockey, and he was struggling, and there was not much more to say about that. He was just having a tough time, and he was in a situation where he was bought out by the Chicago Blackhawks and had some concussion issues, but he was really just struggling, and he felt like he needed to get that story out, and so we started talking that afternoon, and he said I gotta write something, I gotta put it out there and tell people that it's not as easy as everybody thinks it is. The whole idea of being an NHL hockey player, earning lots of money, there's more to it after the game. And so I said to him, listen, let's work on this. And so that was a Saturday. Went and saw him on the Wednesday at his house and had further discussions around that. And 2 days later, he was dead. And unfortunately, his heart stopped. And I think the idea of what the messaging was going to be in the book had to get out. And so it was my promise to him when he did pass to say, hey, I got to continue on with this message. And so I talked to my publisher, who is in fact my dad, helped me with the first book called The Prose Process. And I told him what I wanted to do with it, and talk about the challenges that he and lots of other people have in the retirement game, after their game, finding their way, finding their passion. So we compiled a list of questions. I think there's like 30 or 35 questions. And we did extensive interviews of not only the players, but also the spouses of players. Because at the end of the day, it's not just the player who goes through this. And you'll attest to this because
Yeah.
you've got a family at home. And it can be a struggle for the family to kind of get their footing around what you are going to do after the game, and all of a sudden you're never there, and now all of a sudden you're there a ton, and so there are a ton of challenges that people just don't think about when you're a retired hockey player at in your 20s or in your 30s. It doesn't really matter when. The fact is that it typically will not come as you think it will. Like, it's not going to end on your terms. It's typically going to end on somebody else's terms. And so I really thought about the after the game kind of mentality. I actually put it into my practice. We have a division, and Grant Klitzum, I think, who's actually been on one of these podcasts here. Grant runs our after the game program, and he helps guys while they're still playing, talking about the transition that they're going to have to go through. And I really think that was a huge initiative for One Sports to undertake, because it's not just about the players and their money. It's about life. And I really believe that our practice at One Sports is a lot about life management. Sure, a lot of it starts with money, but it's about life management, and having the discussions that we have with these players and their darkest fears and their biggest aspirations. There's a great connection with our ability to relate to what they're going through. And so for the addition of Grant Klitzum to come on and be a part of that after the game program, he's doing conversations with guys who are playing now. And there are studies out there that actually tell you that if you have an outside focus outside of hockey, a hobby or an interest, and you look at that while you're playing, it will actually enhance your playing while you're playing, because you're not so fully focused on just the sport that you're playing. And so we really want to engage those messages or those conversations with these players. Sure, there's lots of guys who are 18, 19, 25 years old who still aren't ready for that conversation yet, but at least we have it as a platform for them to be able to look at when they're ready.
How do you bridge the gap between being somebody's wealth advisor, being their friend, looking out for their best interest? It's a big decision for a young athlete to make, who to work with. So how do you build that trust between yourself and your clients?
Well, I think, I think that the real important part is the human interaction. It's being able to have hard conversations. It's about making sure that people are aware that we're here to help, and educate. I think the education component is huge. When the education conversation comes up, I think the parents really like that, because it's not just about doing everything for a young person. It's about helping them understand the importance of it for their longevity, their lifetime. And as much as an 18-year-old first round draft pick is in the mix of it right now, to be able to have some very, very frank conversations about, should I be doing this with my money or should I not be doing this with my money? Like, you earn trust pretty quickly. And so I don't mean that lightly. You earn it. It comes from time, but the first couple of interactions when you're having with a player, and you help them do little things like doing the right thing about paying their credit card off or learning online banking, little things like that will keep them coming back to asking the questions. And our team is really focused on that. It's not just about working with the players while they're playing. It truly is to work with them for a long, long time. And for me to really realize that you don't need to put money into places where it's not necessary at the beginning. A 3-year entry level contract is no guarantee of money for life. And so what we try to build is certainty, and understand that we will get to that long-term kind of investment stuff down the road. But right now, we want to protect what you have until you have a little bit more certainty. More certainty means more term and more dollars. Again, an entry-level deal with some signing bonus money is not long-term money.
It means compounding interest. It means your ability to live off of that for a while. Like you said, it's not a huge amount of long-term money, but it's a very big sum of short-term money when we're talking an entry-level contract. It's easy for young players to fall into the pitfalls of different people pulling them in different directions. So, what are some of the mistakes that you find young athletes typically make? And on the flip side of that, what are some of the smart things that they could do with their money to set themselves up for later in life?
Yes, we actually write about this in the first book, about the landmines that are out there. Landmines are basically, bombs in the ground that if guys are walking through life and they don't realize that these things are out there, they could really be seriously impacted by one of these things happening. One of them is the fact that they think that this money is going to continue to roll in. It could be over in the next shift. And so we have to be very aware that we have to know about, the idea that this could be over tomorrow. And that's one of the biggest things. Another is, everybody knows who you are as a pro athlete, with today's social media and everybody knowing about what your salary is, what your income level is. You have a target on your back from day one. And people will target you for their dreams. And I talk about that as, the idea of private equity, or hey, give me $150,000 to put into this restaurant or bar, and help me make my dream come true. And I always say to guys, every single day we have to vet these things for players, because people are coming after them all the time, that target on their back. And 99.9% of them are just not good ideas.
Yep.
And so for me, I always talk about their contract as their lottery win. Okay. And my job is to help protect that lottery win. No offense to the player, they're very talented, and somebody's going to pay them a lot of money to play hockey. That's great, but that's your lottery win. You don't need to then turn around and take that entry level or whatever contract you're on and go and try to hit a home run, like a 10 bagger. 10 bagger means, take 100 grand and make it into $1 million, 10 times earnings. And you just don't need to do that. What we need to do is to protect that money so that it will grow over the life of you. And the idea of hitting home runs, and I also used to use the baseball analogy. My job is to hit singles and doubles to make sure that the runs keep coming in. Because if I'm going to try to swing for the fences, I'm going to strike out a lot. And you don't really need that. Another one to think about.
So one last question for you. When you're thinking of a player transitioning to retirement, huge process, lots of things go into it. What are some of the best things a player can do to set themselves up so that they don't crash when it comes time to retire, so that they have some sense of purpose, of balance, of direction in life when it comes time?
I think it has to do with passion. You have to find something that you're passionate about. For a lot of guys who are coming from the hockey world, I think that hockey remains part of the passion, but for some guys, it's a completely different passion. I'll use one example: Pavel Kubina, Stanley Cup winner in Tampa Bay and played in Toronto and Philadelphia, Atlanta. His passion was cars, and he talked to me about, what am I going to do when I'm done? Moynes, what am I going to do? And I said, well, Kubi, you love cars. And so why don't you get into the car business and continue on with that passion? And so he's got a car dealership down in Tampa, and it's like real high-end cars, kind of the stuff that he was really interested in, passionate about. And he's really made a great go of it. And so it always comes back to passion and the ability to it's not about having to go to work. You know what I mean? It's if you've done everything right way during your playing days. I've always said to my guys that that's where your salary is going to come from, is your core circle of what you've put together. And if you build that properly, you can make the best decision that you could ever do. You don't have to go to work. You can actually take your time and find out what you're passionate about, and then go and create a life that you're going to love. It's not like you have to go and do a 9-to-5 job because you didn't do the right things while you were playing. So that's the one thing that I always kind of talk about, especially while they're still playing, whether it be Grant or myself talking about after the game. Find an outside passion or a secondary passion that you can go and throw yourself into so that it doesn't feel like a job.
Lots of great information here. I know I've got plenty of past teammates that needed to hear that currently need to hear this. Thanks so much for joining me today, Chris. Life After Hockey interview series. Again, Chris Moynes of One Sports and Entertainment. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mike.